Hello, everybody. This is Joe Maldonado, Alder in the city of Fitchburg, and we are here with D1All-Stars. It's been a little while since our last episode, but I'm really excited about our guest, Angela Ferguson. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Um, I've known Angela for probably about 5, 6 years. I've seen her work here and there. We haven't gotten to work closely together, but I'm really excited having her on the show. And I realized recently that she lives in our district. So awesome. We've got a neighbor who does amazing things here in our community. Angela, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. So what we usually do, we start out the show just having folks tell us your story. Like, how'd you
Okay.
get here? Where are you from?
All right. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois. I am the mother of four adults. And I say adults because they're all grown now. Yay.
Yeah.
I have three sons and a daughter. They are all 3 years apart, ranging from the age of 31 to 22. My daughter is the youngest. I have two highly intelligent grandchildren who keep me on my toes and one on the way. Um, like I said, I was born on the west side of Chicago, but my family and I moved to Maywood, Illinois when I was about 8 years old. But I spent my summers in Chicago. So I always say I'm from the west side of Chicago because that is where I learned a lot of my life experiences. I moved to Madison in 1994, and I moved to Fitchburg in 2003. So I've been a native of Fitchburg for a while now.
Okay. So I'm from Milwaukee, and I know they always call Milwaukee baby Chicago. So I know we've got a lot of similarities here. But what was it like
Yes,
transitioning from Chicago, really big city, to the Madison area?
very slow, but I was able to adopt. I am a middle child, so I have two brothers, one older and one younger. I'm the only girl. So we grew up in Maywood. So Maywood was a little slower than Chicago, a suburb of Chicago. And so coming from there to Madison kind of was like even playing ground, but it was also a culture shock because there was not a lot of people that looked like me. And so when I saw somebody that was of a brown skin tone or a black skin tone, I got excited, like, yay, we are here. And so imagine somebody riding past and seeing somebody and looking back and like, whoa, I'm not the only one. So migrating here was a culture shock, but I was able to adapt.
Awesome. And Fitchburg, why'd you ended up coming to this side of Madison area?
I ended up in Fitchburg by default. So I was in the process of searching for a home, and I decided to just ride through the neighborhoods because the internet was not giving me what I needed, that feel of what I needed. So I was just riding through different parts because when you ask people, people say, oh, East Side is the best side or West Side is the best side. So I was like, let me figure out what part of Madison I want to be in. So I took a wrong turn and I just saw this park where kids were playing. This lady was walking her dog and she waved at me. And I'm like, okay, I think I might like this. So I parked my car and I got out and I just walked a couple of blocks just to get a feel of people in the neighborhood. It was after 5 p.m., so most people were off work. And I just walked and, people either nodded or spoke. And so I said, well, maybe I should check the Fitchburg area out. And that is how I ended up in Fitchburg.
Okay. So point of the story, people were nice to you
Yeah.
and it made you want to stay. So everybody watching, be nice to people
I felt a
and
sense of
you'll get awesome
community.
people to
Yes,
come to your
agreed.
community. Awesome.
Agreed.
So what part of Fitchburg do you live in?
I stay right off of Clarendon Drive in Richmond.
Okay. And you've been here a while. So what's kept you
Yes.
here?
Community.
Okay.
Community has kept me here. Just a
Awesome.
sense of um, feeling like I belong. My children have a different aspect in some areas because they are younger. than I am, but I felt the community with the older adults.
Awesome. And what, I one of the things I ask people is like, what do you enjoy about your community? But let me also ask you, what do you wish that our community had more of or had that it doesn't have?
Community centers, activities for the youth where they can feel a part of the community. We don't have a lot of that in the Fitchburg area.
Okay. And that's a really good transition because you work with youth.
Mhm.
Tell me just a little bit about your background with young people.
So I've been in early education pretty much all of my adult years, over 25 years. I started a daycare center and ended up moving to a group center where I work with older at-risk youth.
So why kids? What brought you that profession? Because everybody isn't good with kids. Like it
Great
takes like a
question.
special patience to be able to do that.
Great question. So when I told you that I spent most of my summers in Chicago, my grandmother had us. And when I say us, all of us, my cousins, so there would be at least 15 kids. And we would get in where we fit in. Some of us slept on the couch. It would be five of us in a bed. Some had pallets on the floor. And those of you who don't know what pallets are, it's sheets and covers and anything that you can get to make your sleep on the floor comfortable. And so we just grew up with a lot of kids every summer. So having to share the bathrooms, those midnight talks from the ones that are older to the ones that are younger. We were big on family meetings. So if something was important to you, if you were 5 years old, you could say, hey, we need a family meeting. And everybody would have to get in and participate in this meeting. Everybody's opinion counted. And so that's something that I brought on to my children in my older years. But just being around a lot of kids, having to share. My grandma instilled in us if one didn't have it, no one had it. So
Mm,
if you had a bag of chips, be prepared to give everybody at least a few, or don't come home with them.
right.
So that sense of community is what put me into where I am now.
That's beautiful. Like I love the
Thank
idea of
you.
like a family meeting and everybody, no matter how young they are, being able to have a voice.
Mhm.
So I'm guessing that you've translated that into the work you do too, right? Like, so if you're working
Yeah.
with really little kids, how do you, for somebody that's, maybe not even old enough to speak or old enough to like fully like put all their words out there, how do you like give them that type of voice?
Life experiences, even just the compassion part of holding their hand, taking time to learn gestures and figure out what's going on with them. Sometimes it's not words. We have family members who don't speak at all, but you know exactly what they're saying because it's
Mm,
a, um, a way that they show how they feel. So you just have to pay attention to people, listen to people, and have that compassion.
I love that. So we're going to transition out and talk a little bit more about this later. This is Joe with Angela Ferguson, D1 All-Stars, and we'll be right back. D1 All-Stars, we are back. We're here with Angela Ferguson, and we just dove into a rabbit hole of empathy, human relations, child psychology, and all that. And I want to spend a little bit of time on that because I'm really fascinated by it. Um, so, you've done early childhood work, and you talked about the idea of nonverbal communication and just being able to read kind of what somebody needs. And that's so powerful because that cuts across age. I think the ability to be able to read nonverbal cues and be able to just make somebody feel seen and heard, especially a child, a really young child. But I want to learn more about your work with older youth, and tell me a little bit about when you made that transition, what are the differences between, some of that work with younger kids and work with older kids? I'd really like to kind of understand that psychology too.
Okay. I don't know if I ever really transitioned. It's something that has been happening throughout my life. My children's friends would always confide in me, and I believe it's from the foundation that I had as a child. So when you speak of younger children, I will always look for signs, and I would try to make sure that my teachers were also able to view those signs. For example, we had one kid that would just keep eating, and the teacher would kind of get upset because it would run into the rest of the activities for the day. And so I would just watch. And I told her, I said, let him eat, and found out that he wasn't getting real food at home. So just like microwavable food, snacks, end up talking to the mom, and she goes, well, nobody taught me how to cook. She was like, so we eat chicken nuggets, or, if he wants cereal for dinner, he'll eat cereal. So realizing that the kids needed that nutrition fact, something that, we would have never known had we not taken time to actually sit and talk with the parents to find out, to dig into what's going on behind the children's actions. So from younger kids, just a lot of watching. Older kids, just showing them love. You get a lot of them with those nonchalant attitudes, like you're not my mama, or you can't tell me what to do. But you'll see those attitudes start to change when you show love. And you can't be super sensitive and feeling sorry for them because they're in the situation that they're in. Part of the goal is to teach them to live beyond their environment. So not feeling sorry for them, but being very understanding. I feel like a lot of that is just from love. And when you have children that are at risk or critically at risk, because there's a difference. A lot of people don't know the difference between at risk and critically at risk. You have some children who I put in the category of at risk, where they may live with both parents or are in a middle income range family, where they feel like they have to do things to prove to their friends, prove who they are to their friends. So those are the kids that I call at risk, maybe teenage pregnancies. But then you have those who are critically at risk, where parents are telling them you don't have to go to school to, live life, teaching them negative behaviors in order to survive. So there's a difference between at risk and critically at risk youth. So, when you think about children, like some of the children I work with have experienced sex trafficking as early as the age of 10, where they've been raped by at least 5 men. So those are the ones that I consider critically at risk, because they started dating at 12 and, lying about how old they are. And some men really don't care. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the younger children are, the more they are at risk. Typical for a man to say, oh, you're beautiful, or, and I could just elaborate a little bit about the girl that was raped by 5 men. She, a lot of guys look at you and they say, oh, her clothes, weren't the best. So they knew that she wasn't in a stable home just from the way she looked. And he went after her, just told her she was pretty, took her to the store, bought her a couple of clothes, took her on a few dates, and told her that he wanted her to meet his family. And when she, drove to Milwaukee to meet his family, it wasn't a family atmosphere at all. Luckily, she had life skills where she was able to run and get away, and someone helped her. But she saw other young kids there, which is, when I asked her to speak out on it, at first she was resistant because she knew that he knew who she was and didn't want to say what was going on. But a lot of things are going on that we don't realize that these kids are dealing with.
There's so much that I have to follow up and ask, but first just acknowledge the intensity of that. So the first thing I want to ask is how does one as a childcare provider um, be prepared to be able to be of service to somebody who's been through so much? And I mean, clearly, like, you've had a lot of personal, life experience, a lot of family experience, a lot of professional experience. But how do you manage that?
You have to be prepared to listen, and meet them at the level that they are and the perspectives that they have of life. Not putting your perspective in it, because your way may not be their way. You really don't know the background of certain youth. So listen and, just show love and compassion, but stay consistent. Consistency is the key with them. And a lot of children are just looking for love. And like I said earlier, they'll come across with that nonchalant attitude. But if you stay the same, then they will see you as a person that they can come to and talk to and confide in and not judge.
And what does it look like on your end in relation to other people that young person might need, whether it be psychologists or social worker or any variety? Like, how do you in your profession be able to triage to make sure that maybe if there's something that you're not able to provide or you're not equipped to provide, that somebody else can?
So a lot of people look at it like, what does that have to do with us? We see things going on and we not see things that's going on, meaning that we don't take time to actually look at what is going on. And what people don't realize is that at-risk youth pose a danger to society. Oh, we got 1 minute. Young people need hope and they need dreams and they need someone to show them love. And the only way that you'll figure out what their hopes and dreams are is to show them love, and you'll see things change. Things will definitely change.
I love it. Well, we're going to go a little bit deeper into kind of how you work your superpowers when we come back. Okay. This is Joe with Angela Ferguson, D1All-Stars. We'll be back. D1All-Stars. We are back with Angela Ferguson. We got deep. Woo. There's a lot of pain in this world, and there's a lot of things that people carry with them that just having folks that are able to be patient and understanding and empathetic and walk with folks on their journey and not judge is just incredibly important. And I'm just so glad and fortunate that I've been able to talk with you, for a brief second about what you do, and that other people are going to get to hear that. I want to transition a little bit though, and talk about, you founded your own organization, and some people do that, some more successful than others, but obviously it's something it takes a certain level of perseverance, creativity, and resilience. Tell me the origin story of how you started what you've been able to build.
So Worth was started literally on the couch. So my friend Crystal and I were exchanging stories about you, because my phone rang. And so I said, give me a second, I need to take this call. I went out into the hallway, answered the call, came back in. I started texting. She's like, what you doing? I said, I'm sending a Uber over to one of my daughter's friends. I said, she's stuck and she needs to get home. And so she asked me, is that something that I do all the time? And I had to think about it. I said, I guess I do. I said, they still reach out to me. And she's like, Jamaria is 22 now. And I'm like, yeah, these friends have been around for years. And so we sat down and we were just talking about different things that we did, and we had a lot in common. Crystal also has worked with at-risk youth through her children and through different organizations where she has volunteered. And so when we start collaborating on different things, we're like, wow. I said, we need to get together and, make some things happen. So at that point, we started WORTH, and WORTH stands for Wisconsin's Outreach. Oh my gosh, can we pause that? I can't get it because I'm nervous. So I'm so proud.
See, when you're a doer, like you ain't got time to like memorize acronyms. You just keep doing the work. Yeah.
I'm so proud of it. So WORK stands for Wisconsin Outreach Innovators, Reconstructing Together for Higher Standards. And the Reconstructing Together is because I really believe that it takes a community to raise a child. So the ages we work with is 12 to 24 years old. So we do a different variety because we know there are other organizations out there that are working with younger girls. And so there are some younger kids that we are just starting to work with. Like I mentioned, I have two beautiful grandchildren. One is 6 years old, and she has a friend who is also 6, and they have their iPhones out. And so I sit back and I listen to their conversation. So I do a little intervention in there as well. Be surprised at what kids 5 and 6 years old know. But
I have a 6-year-old, so I'm paying attention
now. Yes. So our goal is to build self-worth and empower. So not just children, but young adults as well. I had my first child when I was 17 years old. I came from a home with both parents, and our foundation was love, but it wasn't perfect. There were ups and downs in between. So I don't want to paint this picture like, oh, I had mom and dad my whole life. I did, and I'm very grateful. But I also mentioned that my summers were spent in Chicago. My grandmother owned an apartment building with at least 45 residents in them. So 45 different households. And in the summertime, we were very sheltered. When the street lights came on, we had to sit on the porch, but we also witnessed things that were going on in the neighborhood, mental health things, where families were, being killed, infants smothered. We weren't allowed to play in the alley, but of course, that sparked my imagination. Like, what's so important about this?
Curiosity.
We can't go in. So a lot of my experience I have is from personal experience. Life has taught me a variety of things, and that's where my compassion kicks in at. My dad used to love to joke, so I get that from him, but my mother had a lot of compassion, and you could see the love in her eyes. And when she touched you, you can see the compassion. So a lot of that is what I implement when I work with you.
So I'm interested in that 12 to 24 piece because oftentimes, right, like stop at 18. And a lot of programs stop as soon as kids are done with high school. And I feel like there's just a real strong need for young adults to be able to have support. And I'm starting to see more, organizations, more efforts pop up. But why did you decide to go up to 24? What's the rationale and what's the need?
Those are the years that I struggled most. Between 17 and 24. I had a great support system from my family, but there was housing issues. I was pregnant at 17, had my son at 18, trying to juggle college and parenthood and figuring out, what we're going to eat, feeding him the right things, making sure that I wasn't listening to certain music when he was around. Now, don't get me wrong, I listened to it, but not when they're around. Learning to parent, finding housing, dating issues, being raped before, just having those experiences, being able to bring them to the younger generation. I feel like it's important that we don't stop at the age of 18 because life still goes on.
So what does it look like to support somebody who's, legally an adult versus somebody who's, maybe still under the supervision of somebody?
Same thing. Listening, letting them know that success is possible, showing them through events, community support, some of the things that I've witnessed myself, just being vulnerable, not afraid to share my life experiences and giving advice. You love on them. And when you love on people, it breaks chains and people want to listen and they want to learn. And they learn from my experiences. Every experience hasn't been perfect, but I'm okay with sharing them. Like I said, I'm a mother of 3 young men, and please believe every day was not a great day, but just being able to share that love and experiences with them and to give them hope on what the future will be.
So mom, grandma, what's it like? Because I got one that's on his way out the house in a couple years. How does the relationship changed from when they were kids until when they were an adult? And what stayed the same?
They don't leave. My daughter is still in my pockets, but of course she's a college student. The nice thing is when they get older, they take care of you. So it's a great thing.
Beautiful.
But I always keep the door open because they may come back.
Noted. Any parting words? Any advice to folks, out here that are watching?
Yes, community support is very important. A lot of people ask, how can I help? Any experience that you have is a great help. Volunteer, find out about your local organizations that are working with youth. A lot of people avoid it, but youth really are our future. And if you want a better future, instill in someone what you have learned to make this world a better place.
I love it. And that's something that we always stress here is get involved. Thank you so much, Angela. This was unexpected to be able to have the depth of conversation that we have. Thank you for just being a resource to so many young people, young adults and babies here in our community. And we're so fortunate to be able to have you, here in Fitchburg.